has China in a meaningful way turned the page, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've heard me saying this a while ago already, and I think everything that is happening now, including raising the budget deficit, is very consistent with what we have gotten as information in the Central Economic meeting from the Politburo back in July. So every single step for me is a very credible one, and even the press is saying it's a surprise move for Xi to go to the PBOC. For me, it's just a very a very logic and a very sensible and consistent approach that is being had. So the government is obviously fully understanding that the central government needs to steer economic growth more. They've done a lot of different measures. Of course, a lot of measures take their time. If we look back at the property market, for instance, I'm sure you will ask me about it in a minute. A lot of the bigger measures that were put in place, like lower down payments, different mortgage requirements, and also the renegotiation of existing mortgages, that only came effect 25th of September. This is all quite fresh. We're only a month from here. Yet we have already seen some of the data, the macroeconomic data, turning. And I think that's something the market needs to see more of it, but this is where I take my cue that these are all the right measures and we are marching in the right direction.
I don't disagree with you at all. We've had this conversation before about, the incremental stimulus that you have to allow it time to feed through, and in terms of the credit impulses that they're providing in terms of the property market, all things that you would expect and need to see in order to stabilise, to keep things from getting worse. But in some instances, they are getting worse. And, even when you think about the fact that you can have Xi sending an incredibly clear signal, or intending to, I'm going to the PBOC, I'm having Team China, Central Huijin going in and buying up ETFs and everything else. But you still see that lack of overall sentiment. And so at what point do we say that fundamentals aren't necessarily as important and a lot of the flow that previously would go to China just isn't going to come back?
Yes, so you're absolutely right pointing out what is happening. So investor sentiment is still extremely impeded by the overall risk sentiment and the narrative around the property market. And I think that is the one part we really need to kind of move forward for investors to be able to go back and invest. And that is the same way we look at the market and the same way we advise our clients. So now is not the time to go back in, yet valuations are very attractive as they were, but the sentiment has still not improved. You're asking, will that never come back? I think it will come back because we are now at a point where valuations are so attractive, and also, the amount of allocations have been reduced to such a great extent. Once you see that momentum picking up in a meaningful way, people do not want to miss out. So I think that will come back, but it will need to have a very convincing bottoming out and that momentum to pick up, and not just building a base and kind of hovering on.
I agree with